And you know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in Paris?
They don't call it a quarter pounder with cheese?
Oh man, they got the metric system. They wouldn't know what the fuck a quarter pounder is.
And what do they call it?
They call it Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese.
That's right.
What do they call a Big Mac?
Big Mac's a Big Mac, but they call it Le Big Mac.
Le Big Mac. What do they call a Whopper?
I don't know. I didn't go on a Burger King.
Hello and welcome to the Weekly Reel Podcast. My name is Ken.
And my name is Jeremy.
And this week we have a special first-time guest with us, Mr. Aldrin Lee. Aldrin, why don't you say hi to the podcast world?
Hello.
So, Aldrin, how do we all know each other?
We are cousins.
Really?
All from, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to ask you how.
We're all first cousins, actually. Yeah, in varying degrees. You're like the middle child of us three. I am, yeah. I bridged the gap.
I've known both of these guys all their lives. I think Aldrin's known Jeremy all his life. Jeremy, you've known us all your life.
Exactly.
Oh man, well, welcome to the Weekly Reel Podcast, Aldrin. It's good to have you here. I remember when me and Jeremy were having our podcast meetings and we were thinking of potential guests. You were definitely near the top of the people we wanted to bring on board as a guest, because I know firsthand that you watch a lot of movies, you watch a lot of TV. We've had some interesting and fun conversations about both. And I thought you would be a really, really good addition to the Weekly Reel Podcast. So definitely welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. So this week, we are going to be talking about Pulp Fiction. But before we do that, we are going to be talking about something current. We try to keep things current with pop culture and entertainment here on the Weekly Reel Podcast. And we're recording this on the Wednesday after the Emmy Awards, the Primetime Emmy Awards that took place this past Sunday. And so, guys, I wanted to kind of start this off with actually a TV question. I don't think we've done that yet on the Weekly Reel Podcast. So with the Emmy Awards just this past weekend, I just wanted to see what your best or favorite season of TV that you've watched in the last 12 months, so within the last year. So, Jeremy, do you want to go first and share your favorite season of TV?
Yeah, sure. Like, I wanted to almost say The Mandalorian, but I was like, oh, that's kind of too obvious. So I said Jack Ryan on Amazon Prime. Because I don't watch that much TV, and so when I decided to start that show, and I think it was their second season last year, and I enjoyed the show. It's like very espionage, spy stuff. I really enjoy that type of stuff.
Yeah, I remember. I think right around the time the second season aired, because I was behind on Jack Ryan. That's when I started binge watching the first season, but I ended up stopping maybe 3 episodes into season 2. I just got busy with a bunch of other stuff and other shows. So it's really good. Did you like it?
I liked season 2. I think I probably enjoyed season 1 more. And it's funny because in season 1, I think it was that Ebola virus thing, right? And which reminded me, I'm like, oh shoot, conspiracies about this whole coronavirus stuff now. I'm like, someone probably activated it and it's all the government's fault. And I don't know. Some weird stuff like that, conspiracy theories.
Oh, yeah. We're never going to be devoid of conspiracy theories, especially, with TV and movies, like just stoking the fires. So, Aldrin, what was your favorite season of TV that's aired the last year?
Right. I had a little bit of trouble trying to think of a couple of shows. I've been catching up on some older ones lately, but I think one of my favorite ones is on Netflix right now. I don't know if you've seen it. It's Money Heist.
I've heard of it. I haven't
Have
seen
you
it
heard of
yet, though. Yeah. I've seen like how the trailers pop up automatically.
Right. This is probably one of those things where the trailers actually doesn't sell the show well enough, I think.
Maybe that's why I haven't seen it.
Yeah. The photo that they have on Netflix is horrible. The thing, it's actually a really good show. It's about a bunch of robbers who they're trying to perform like the biggest heist that like in history in Barcelona.
Barcelona.
Yeah, the Royal Mint of Spain. So I think it was
You gotta have that list.
a couple billion, exactly, a couple billions, and it's in Barcelona. So then it's actually a really good show. I actually thought of 2 shows for this one.
Oh,
My
yeah.
other favorite is complete opposite here. It's going to be What We Do in the Shadows on Hulu. Have you guys seen that one?
I have not. See, this is
No.
why we have these little segments in our podcast so that we can actually take the time to actually watch these on our own.
Yeah. So this is was created by Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi. Great director. Yeah. So the movie was great, and then they made 3 seasons of this show on Hulu so far. It's a really good comedy. It's about vampires. I don't know if you've heard about it too much, but yeah, it's about vampires living in New York, Staten Island, I believe.
Sounds pretty interesting, especially with all the people they have on board. So might have to check it out. Gotta get on those TV shows.
Yeah, the TV shows are I think have been where it's at past few years, I think, even bigger than movies, because they have an opportunity to expand on stories, much longer than a couple hours. So
Yeah, I agree. You know what? And that was even before me and Jeremy obviously started this podcast. I feel like, I agree with you completely, Aldrin, where if a TV show is done really, really well and the acting is good, the storylines don't overstay their welcome, I feel like high quality TV will trump movies. Especially if, you're talking about just a 2-hour block of time or whatever. I know that a lot of the movie franchises are starting to, obviously see that and just have sequels or whatever. And obviously we have the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're, smack dab in the middle of our franchise series that we're doing here on this podcast. But I think they're kind of catching on, just doing some of these TV principles and doing it on obviously a larger scale.
Right.
The TV show that actually a few shows that I was thinking about, I wanted to share. I was thinking about sharing one of these 2. I ultimately did not pick one of these first 2, but one of my favorite shows that I just jumped back into after I bailed after season 2 was Better Call Saul. Better Call Saul. It aired its penultimate season 5, and they're still filming season 6. It got delayed because of coronavirus or whatever. But season 5 was as good as any season on Breaking Bad. I think I mentioned it to Jeremy on like one of our early meetings or whatever. But I wanted to mention Better Call Saul. I'm not. Succession season 2 was brilliant. It won the Emmy for best drama. It was really, really, really good. And I enjoyed it. It's just the characters are just crazy. But that being said, the show that I wanted to highlight as my favorite season of TV was Watchmen, season 1. And I just felt the reason why I picked it were for a few reasons. The first being that the content within the show is still very relevant in today's social climate. Also, I've always been a big fan of Damon Lindelof. I think me and Aldrin share this same thing. Been a fan of Lost, despite how it ended, and The Leftovers, and I just loved how he portrayed Watchmen, did that whole thing. And I just felt like it was just gritty and groundbreaking, especially the episode. It was the penultimate episode titled "A God Walks into a Bar." A bar is basically the last name of the main character. And I won't go into any spoilers or anything, but Jeremy, I thought you would like this. You know how like last week when we were talking in Tenet, that your main one of your main criticisms was there was too many conversations just happening at a dinner table or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Well, the whole like base of that episode happens to be two characters just talking in a bar at a table, and then they use like flashbacks to kind of tell the story. And I don't want to spoil anything, but I felt like that was probably the best episode of television for sure of 2019, late 2019. But it's up there of all time. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen it, Aldrin?
I've watched Succession the first season. I haven't watched the second season.
Yeah. How about Watchmen though?
Watchmen was good. I enjoyed that one. I have this thing of watching these shows when they first release in their entirety, maybe within days. And I'm thinking back, and like Jack Ryan feels like 2 years ago. Watchmen feels like about over a year and a half ago. And that's why I'm watching like some of these older ones, but it's nice to revisit the newer ones actually.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to pick Watchmen is because there's a really good chance that will be the only season. I think Damon Lindelof does not want to do a second season, despite all the pressure from probably HBO and all the critics that love the show, or whatever. But it was definitely my favorite season of TV for sure.
Nice. Yeah.
So Aldrin, this is your first time on the podcast, and I think you remember. I remember you telling both me and Jeremy that you've listened to most of our episodes, except for I think the last one.
Yeah.
And so this is a thing that we do have every week. We call it our podcast ritual, where we do share one TV show or movie, especially a movie. This is a movie podcast after all, that we watched within the last week. And so Aldrin, I'll give you first dibs. What was one movie or TV show that you wanted to highlight for this past week?
Yeah, I did a little bit of background stuff on Tarantino, watching the Hateful Eight extended version, and I was watching. Yeah, I dove deep this week, but I'm not going to mention those, even though I've mentioned them. I watched The Devil All the Time. Did you guys watch that one? It's on Netflix right now.
I've seen half of it.
I've seen it. Yeah.
I thought it was really good. I saw it the other night. Pretty good cast. We got Tom Holland on there. We got Sebastian Stan, Skarsgård. Skarsgård brother is always good. Those guys are good. Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, he's crazy in that movie too.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. Definitely a dark movie. Not a movie you can watch all the time, nor do you want to. But I thought it was a really good movie.
Yeah, that was definitely a rough watch, actually. Like, I enjoyed it just as the same as you. I was just like, whoa, they're really showing this. And it just kept going. Yeah. And it was, I don't know. I don't want to spoil it for Jeremy because he's only watched half of it. It starts off really slow. And I think you've only watched the slow parts. It really picks up after they show Tom Holland, right? When he makes his appearance.
Yeah, I've gotten a little past that part because me and my brother are watching it, and he's busy with work and all that stuff. So we try to sneak in some parts of Devil All the Time, and it's like it's not a very happy movie to watch before work. So yeah, we only got through half of it, but I like it so far. It's really depressing, but I'm excited to finish the movie.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah.
Just maybe watch something happier right after or something like that to kind of even it out. You want to balance that out.
Yeah, I was a little hesitant to watch it, actually. I mean, I don't usually catch on to these movies when they're first released, and especially if they show a little preview, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I'll put it off a little bit. I wasn't really that interested in it. But the more you watch, definitely the more involved you get.
I agree with that. I was surprisingly awake when I watched it on Friday night, and usually Friday nights end of a really long week, and sometimes I'll just doze off in the middle of whatever I'm watching. That kept me awake the whole time. The whole time. There was obviously certain scenes where I was like, whoa, they showed that.
Yeah. The funny one was recognizing Dudley
Dudley.
Harry Potter in there. I was like, this kid looks familiar. Super creepy.
Yeah, Roy.
Mm-hmm. Roy.
That was he's interesting. He was the one that I don't even want to give spoilers.
Yeah.
He was the one that spoke at church.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that was him. I did.
That's Dudley.
Just now thinking about it, I'm like, you're right.
It's like, this guy looked familiar. Don't know where. And I was like, it's probably Harry Potter or like one of those kids from there, something grown up. And he definitely was.
Anyway, yep, definitely it was Harry Potter for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man. Jeremy, do you want to share your movie or TV show?
Yeah, I actually got to watch Mulan, the new one.
Oh.
Yeah, I really didn't like it. So objectively, it was an okay movie. Subjectively though, I wanted to like kind of stop watching like halfway through.
No.
I was like it's just not it didn't like I didn't sit well with it. It didn't sit well with me at like with the point I was watching, but my mom really wanted to watch it. It's like, oh, let's watch Mulan, and we were. I'm like, it's not as good as the animation.
Uh-huh.
But so I actually watched a different movie though. I just wanted to mention Mulan really quick because that's a recent movie. Just some random movie. I watched this movie called Meet Bill with Aaron Eckhart. It's like some comedy movie. It's not very good, but I just wanted something light and kind of it felt very like a TV movie. Some like really
Movie of the week.
Yeah, movie of the week, and not memorable at all. But it was something that I needed to like. It's like a good palate cleanser type of movie. Just something
I think
easy.
I remember that one was like from a few years ago at least, right?
Yeah, like 2007 had Aaron Eckhart, Jessica Alba, and Elizabeth Banks.
Oh, that's a pretty good cast.
Yeah.
It was right before Aaron Eckhart did The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Interesting. Rachel.
How about you, Ken? What'd you watch?
Actually, it's funny. I guess me and Aldrin were still kind of thinking on the same wavelength. I was going to share The Devil All the Time, but just in case, because that did come out last Friday, I was like, just in case someone brings that up, I had a backup. So, I mean, I did watch The Devil All the Time just because, like you said, it involves Spider-Man, Batman, the Winter Soldier, Pennywise, and the kid from Harry Potter.
Right.
And I mean, you basically said everything that I was going to say, but the movie that I wanted to share was the movie after I watched it. Like immediately after, I was like, oh man, that was rough. I need to watch something that's kind of dumb and kind of funny. So I was still on Netflix. So I ended up rewatching for the first time in a bunch of years the Starsky and Hutch 2004 remake with Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn. Oh my goodness. I forgot how funny and underrated that movie is because obviously they spoof the TV show. And I just needed to balance out what I watched on The Devil All the Time. And I was still laughing at all the gags. It was just funny with Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson, especially. Have you guys seen that before?
I don't think I have.
I've seen it, but it's been a while since I've seen it. But I remember it being a pretty funny movie. I was too young to watch the TV show, but I do remember the remake and it being with the cool car and everything like that. I remember that movie pretty well.
Yeah, it was funny too because the only inspiration that I had was last week on just a random group thread or whatever. One of my coworkers was like wanting to do something, and so I tossed in that GIF with Ben Stiller at the end of the movie when they're in their wigs, and then the character that he's playing, he keeps on saying, "Do it, do it, do it," and so I sent that, and I sent that gift out, and the gift out, and I just remembered it. And after I watched the Devil All the Time, I was like, oh, you know what I should watch right after? Let's watch Starsky and Hutch, because I saw it like on the front page of Netflix. And so definitely check it out, Jeremy, if you want something kind of stupid and kind of like a time period comedy, but kind of a spoof. Snoop Dogg's in it, Vince Vaughn, Who else is it? Juliette Lewis. And then what's his name? Will Ferrell, of course.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay.
You almost forget Will Ferrell's in it.
What was his character's name again? I'm sorry.
Big
Oh,
Earl.
man.
Big Earl.
Right.
There's a little bit of a spoiler. I like. It's like, well, they mistaken some other dude as Big Earl, and they're like, but maybe he's Big Earl. It's like, well, but he's not really that big. Oh, maybe it's an ironic name. It's like, well, it's not like he's like small. He's more regular sized. So it was just this random thing. I just thought it was funny. I was like, oh yeah, if you were gonna mistake someone for Big Earl, but yeah, definitely check it out, Jeremy. It's pretty funny.
Cool.
Yeah. So quickly before we get into Pulp Fiction, definitely enjoyed the conversation so far. We'll do a little bit of episode cleanup from last week's episode, Tenet. And so again, every Tuesday following a brand new release, we do have a poll related to that episode. And Jeremy, do you want to reveal what the poll was and what the results were?
Yeah, so we basically asked our listeners, our audience, if they've seen Tenet, because obviously we have. So we asked them if they saw Tenet, and 57% said yes, they have seen Tenet. So someone at least drove at least probably an hour. If you live in California, it's hard to find a movie theater that's open.
Yeah, for sure. Aldrin, have you seen Tenet yet?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay. But you do watch like Christopher Nolan films and everything?
I definitely wanted to see it. Hesitant to go to the movie theater, but I'll definitely get around to it for sure.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine they'll probably release it on streaming or some sort of service quicker than normal, just because of the current circumstances. But yeah, every Tuesday, just wanted to remind everyone that we do have these episode related polls. Jeremy, where can they find these polls at?
So they can find our polls on, I think, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Weekly Reel.
Yes, at Weekly Reel. And so this week, we're finally at the point where we're talking about Pulp Fiction, Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. And so in this episode, we meet two hitmen, a gangster and his wife, a boxer, and a couple of robbers that are all connected by Quentin Tarantino's stylized storytelling in the 1994 classic Pulp Fiction. And so the reason why I picked this movie was it was one of my favorite movies. I mean, I actually haven't seen it, admittedly, in a while, in a few years. So I had to, catch up with some stuff. But this was Jeremy's first time seeing Pulp Fiction. And so, Jeremy, were there any expectations going into watching Pulp Fiction that you wanted to share?
Well, so obviously it's a Tarantino movie, so I knew some weird stuff was going to happen for sure. The only thing I knew about the story was I heard about the GIMP scene, and I was like, oh shoot, what's going to happen? Like when the GIMP actually showed up later on in Bruce Willis's storyline, and I was like, oh shoot, here we go. What's going to happen? I thought it was good. It's a crazy scene, right? So I didn't know what to expect during that scene. I was like, oh shoot, someone's going to like explode. Someone's going to get their head chopped off. I have no idea what was going to happen. And obviously some bad stuff happens in that scene too. But yeah, just knowing Tarantino, you never know what to expect. And so my expectations, I knew I was going to be entertained. I knew I was going to be surprised and weirded out. And I knew to expect shots of feet, but at least not as much as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that in Once Upon a Time. Oh man. Well, I mean, you were right for sure in terms of what to expect. I'm really surprised that you actually did find out about the GIMP scene already, and honestly wasn't looking forward to watching that part of the film again, but I was just like, oh, we got to do it. And anyway, what were your overall thoughts once you did see Pulp Fiction? Like, what'd you think about it?
It was one of those movies that it's like just pure fun, for sure. It was like Tarantino basically made a bunch of like short films that he wanted to make and put them all in one movie, and basically all in the same universe. I thought that was really cool, just like the way they intro the movie, like defining pulp, because the whole movie is like, if anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. And I think just the one scene that displays that so well is when Bruce Willis escapes from like the whole GIMP stuff, and then is like looking at his choice of weapons. It's just going one by one, and it just gets crazier and crazier, from like a hammer to a chainsaw. Then he finally settles on a katana. I'm like, this is not right. It's like, but it's so fictionalized, but it's so awesome at the same time.
Any other thoughts on Pulp Fiction?
Well, I also think every scene that Samuel L. Jackson was in, he stole the show every time. Like everything he said, like the dialogue that they gave him was hilarious every time. Basically, like later on, we talk about our favorite quotes. It could be basically anything that he said. Was like, I could have picked any one of those, but I tried to pick something else. Spoiler alert. But yeah, Samuel L. Jackson, he's super young in that.
Oh, I know. He looks really slim, right?
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I didn't expect was the whole separate storylines. Like I mentioned, they were like short films because they weren't connected at all. So, and there's no really like long story thread, I guess, of the movie.
Yeah, it just a bunch of random little short stories, and I mean, it's actually kind of related to the topic that I originally had for a little bit later on in this episode. But we might as well just get into it now. You know how last week we did talk about how Christopher Nolan in Tenet, kind of played with time, and he does that mainly in across all of his films, really. And so, Tarantino uses the use of a non-linear storytelling form of storytelling to basically kind of mess around with the timelines of Pulp Fiction. So what do you think about that, Jeremy?
Well, I also expected the whole movie to be Samuel L. Jackson, Jules, and John Travolta, Vincent. I thought it was gonna be them the whole movie. So I guess that was one of my expectations also. So when the movie started and like the whole opening scene happened with the restaurant robbery, and then it ends with the same scene, I thought that was genius. I love that when it's all like comes back around in the end. I love that type of stuff. Oh, and when John Travolta was like killed randomly by what's his name? By Butch. I was like, what? It's like because my expectations was he's gonna be there the whole movie, and so when he just dies randomly in the bathroom, I was very surprised by that.
Yeah, definitely. It caught me off guard too the first time I watched it. What do you think, Aldrin, about like kind of like the playing around with a non-linear timeline?
I think it's what you said. It's like a long story set into individual skits broken up. But when you think about it, the end of the movie is in the diner, meaning the front is this movie's in circle. So then I liked how it relates to each other in that way. I think the more you watch it, I do remember the first time that I watched it, this was like early 2000. I think I dove into it with Kill Bill, and then I watched Pulp Fiction. When I was much younger, we rented Pulp Fiction in Blockbuster, and this was a movie that was not appropriate for a young, what was I, 1994-ish, maybe let's just say 96. So yeah. I was maybe like 12, 13 years old, and that's not the time to watch Pulp Fiction.
especially with that gimp scene that Jeremy alluded to.
Exactly. That gimp scene was stuck in my head, and the diner scene was stuck in my head. So I don't remember how I remember those things, but when I watched Kill Bill, I watched Pulp Fiction after that, remembering those scenes. Those stood out to me so strongly that going back to the whole thing being a circle and then looking at it in its entirety, that's what makes Quentin Tarantino. He's referencing other movies too. It's Mia Wallace, which was the characters, and it was the team that was in that what do they call it? The show that they made and canceled. Yeah, it was the what was it? The six the Foxy character, the blah blah blah, the one with the specialist, the Japanese with the katana kind of thing. Those were
a Fox Force 5.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one. This is why Quentin Tarantino's awesome. That it's all synced together.
I remember when both me and Jeremy were, kind of texting you in a group thread, and we were like, "Hey, you know what? Would you want to come on board on the podcast?" And we were, once you said yes, we were like, "Oh, sweet, okay." Well, try to think of some movies that you might want to come on board with. And I remember vividly the text that you had sent. You were like, "Oh, anything with Tarantino and Wes Anderson." And, that's going to be to be determined for future podcast episodes. So be on the lookout. It's a little bit of a spoiler alert. But Aldrin, I wanted to ask you, why was Quentin Tarantino one of those first directors that you wanted to kind of talk about, especially one of his movies?
It's funny because Tarantino's actually maybe not my loved director. I do appreciate a lot of directors, but I think his movies and films are movies I'd watch very often, because you could just throw them on and just have them in the background. You could dive deep into it. You could really think about it, or you could just have it, but playing in the background. But I think the thing I appreciate most is the characters that he develops, the dialogue and all that. That's where there is the most interest in his films, I think. I mean, they look cool. They have really stylized and visual soundtracks are always really solid. But when it comes down to it, you could either dive really deep into it and overanalyze everything, or you could just watch it like a light viewer. I think that's the thing that I really appreciate about his films.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's I remember some of the films that I have put on rewatch were the Kill Bills, Volume 1 and 2. It's if I wanted to watch something where I wanted a little bit more dialogue heavy stuff, I'll watch Volume 2. If I just want to watch a crazy action film, I'll just put on Volume 1. Right. And same thing goes for just rewatching either Pulp Fiction or Inglourious Bastards or any one of his other films. Right. It's just there's something for everyone, just like you said. Yeah. And so kind of Pulp Fiction is widely regarded as a lot of people's favorite Tarantino films. Do you have kind of a hierarchy in terms of a ranking of where Pulp Fiction would fall, for other Tarantino films?
I do. It's probably one of my least watched. I know that's kind of weird to say, but it's probably one of my least watched, maybe down the middle. I mean, I do have a little bit of a ranking. Kill Bill was one of the series that introduced me to Tarantino, so I think that was one that I've always enjoyed from the beginning. I would say it's probably one of my favorites to just kind of throw on. I have Inglourious Bastards behind that, Django Unchained, Hateful Eight, then Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs following that. So it's probably just something that I need to revisit more, because when I watched it this recent time, it made me really appreciate it a little bit more than I used to thinking about it, I think.
Yeah, because you could tell that he still throws some little throwbacks or whatever from his more recent stuff to some of his older stuff. So I could definitely see that. I completely agree in terms of Pulp Fiction. I mean, it had been a while since I'd seen it, and but then there was some other stuff that I've seen way more often because there's a little bit more of a rewatchability.
Right. I think he's criticized as someone who has created a formula, and Pulp Fiction started off so strong that he seems to replicate that. But I think he's improved as a director. and his storylines and his characters are much more developed than they have been. And even though he came out with such a strong movie up front, I think it's even better over time, I think.
Completely agree. Jeremy, do you have a little bit of a hierarchy or ranking in terms of where Pulp Fiction falls with some of the other Tarantino films that you've seen so far?
Yeah, I actually didn't get to watch like The Hateful Eight or like Reservoir Dogs. I've watched the first Kill Bill, but I actually have to say my favorite, I think, is Django Unchained. Where would you put Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? By curiosity, Aldrin.
For me, I think it's just after Reservoir Dogs. I've watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood maybe twice. I haven't really watched it as much as the other ones, so it may be just a repetition thing where I appreciate films a little bit more. But when I first watched that one, I did enjoy it, but I didn't really like it as much as I expected that I would.
Yeah, for sure. Like I enjoyed it, but I do need to revisit it more. Like because it is a strange movie, but that's what you come to expect. But I think I definitely need to rewatch that. But I think Django Unchained is like super funny to me, and I guess super violent.
Right.
I always like that type of stuff.
It's funny how people think Pulp Fiction was really violent when you watch Django Unchained and Hateful Eight.
Or Kill Bill Volume 1.
Volume 1 of Kill Bill. Yeah, exactly. It's like,
oh man,
I think they even censored the violence in Pulp Fiction compared to those other films that he's created more recently.
Yeah, I actually expected it to be like even bloodier than it was. So when I watched Pulp Fiction this time, I was like, oh, it's like I guess it's a little toned down.
Right. Except for the car scene, of course. That one's probably like the messiest that I remember in Pulp Fiction. But
it was pretty graphic when Mia almost OD'd. That was I was like, oh
yeah, because you can see her face. It was her face that they showed the most.
Yeah, they did the close up, and they had her foaming at the mouth too, or like I don't know if that was throw up. I was probably throw up actually. Now I think about it. Likely. Oh man, brutal. But guys, you know what? Just wanted to ask you one last thing as it relates to just random topics within Pulp Fiction. This was a bit more of a lighter one. In Pulp Fiction, we did see a briefcase used as mainly a MacGuffin, just to kind of advance the plot a little bit. But we never actually got to see what was inside that briefcase. And so, Jeremy, Aldrin, if you were in the film and you had a chance to open the briefcase, what would you hope to see inside that briefcase? And so, Aldrin, since you're our guest, why don't you go ahead and take this one first?
I think I remember looking this one up a long time ago. Like, what's in the briefcase? And I think a theory that was there was that it was Marcellus's soul. I like that theory that he sold his soul to gain the power that he had and established. Personally, I wanted to. In my mind, I thought it should be something that valued Marcellus, and the funny thing that I came up with in my head was that it was Gwyneth Paltrow's head that was in there. Tarantino does this thing where he has like similar actors throughout his films, and I thought it would be funny that it was Brad Pitt from Inglourious Basterds in this connection that it had with it. But obviously he didn't direct the movie Seven, but I just thought something of value, and somehow Marcellus maybe thought there was value. If it was money or gold, I think that could have easily been transferable to anybody else. It had to be something that Marcellus cared about, I think. I just thought that would be kind of funny and silly, I guess, Gwyneth Paltrow's head.
Yeah, I actually mentioned that I watched Seven last week.
Oh, really?
The Tenet episode. It was my first time watching Seven, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Especially the what's in the box scene.
Yeah, what's in the box? But in this case, what's in the briefcase? That's funny that you mentioned that. I didn't know you guys mentioned that you've seen it. That's funny.
Oh, they would have to kind of shred up Gwyneth Paltrow's head or whatever.
Right. Maybe it's just the face.
Yeah. Right. It's just the face. Oh man. Hey Jeremy, what would you want to see in that briefcase if you were in Pulp Fiction?
If I was in Pulp Fiction,
Yeah.
so like, because at one point, like I was just thinking something funny, like not what I would want to see, but it would be like what Tarantino would want to see. It's like his freaking feet picture collection. That's what I imagine that would be Tarantino's. But for me, I was like, I was thinking it's the keys to the Batmobile, any of the Batmobiles except for Clooney's, I guess. Either that or the Bat credit card, which appears in Batman and Robin. So it's not too far apart, 1994 and 1998. So the Bat credit card would be on there.
That's
So
a good
bad.
one. That's a good one. Well, the thing that I was thinking, I was like, okay, obviously they had like that goldish glow or whatever. And I was like, okay, well, I wanted to take that stylized aspect out of it. I just wanted to kind of make it a little bit more realistic. So the thing that I thought of, it's not really too, it's not very imaginative, I should say, but I was just like, oh, maybe if it was just legal documents naming me as the sole heir for Marsellus Wallace, and I just get to inherit like literally everything, and it could be gold, it could be just random stuff. I mean, it is Marcellus's briefcase anyway, so I just thought, I was like, okay, just name me as the sole heir, kind of bypass Mia a little bit, and if she wants to, I don't know, just kick it or whatever, try to persuade me to give her a little, like, all right, we could hang out, we could maybe do some dances or whatever at the that diner. I forgot the name of it. Was it?
Yeah, I don't think I remember that one either.
It was at, I forgot. I guess I thought I had it. Oh no, here it is. Jack Rabbit Slims.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Jack Rabbit Sims.
So yeah, every week we like to involve our podcast audience and try to make this an interactive thing. And so this week, our audience question is, what is your favorite Tarantino film? And so, Jeremy, do you want to mention where they can get back to us?
Yeah, if you want to get in contact with us, you can reach us at Weekly Reel. That's like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and you can also contact us through email as well.
And have you remembered that, or have you learned that email yet?
It's Weekly Reel.
I guess that's a no. So it is weeklyreelpod@gmail.com. For those of you who want to send us a little bit more of a long form answer of, like naming some of your favorite Tarantino films, you could say why. And who knows? We'll go ahead and might read that on a future episode. So definitely check that out. Get back to us in sharing what your favorite Tarantino film is. So, guys, let's go ahead and take a quick break. All right, we're back, and we've reached the part of the podcast where we're talking about the Weekly Reel Awards. And so, Aldrin, since this is your first time, I just wanted to actually remind everyone, especially for those of you who may be checking our podcast for the very first time, that we have this section where we have these fun awards that we do hand out. And, it's inspired by the MTV Movie Awards that I used to watch back in the 90s. And, I just always thought it was pretty fun because they just had random casual categories. And so the first Weekly Reel award that we're going to give out is the Marissa Tomei Aunt May Award for what has aged well. And so, Aldrin, since you're our guest, we'll give you first crack at the award. So who would get the Marissa Tomei Aunt May Award?
This is a vague one that I have, but I would just say that the actors would get the award. Performances by these actors, these are the best performances per actor, I would say. Uma Thurman is great in this. John Travolta, who I'm not really a fan of John Travolta, but I actually like him in this movie. Samuel L. Jackson's probably at his best, and this is like you said earlier, he stole the show on this one, I would say.
Oh yeah, totally agree. I mean, all the performances I feel like can be argued their best performances across all of their careers. This is probably at the top of a lot of actors. So I definitely agree with you on that. That's actually a really good winner, actually, in terms of just the acting and the actors. So, Jeremy, who would you give the Marissa Tomei Aunt May Award?
I would have to agree with Aldrin. More specifically, the Samuel L. Jackson. I like I said, he does steal the scene every time he shows up, and I wouldn't mind if they even just made a spin-off of him, even if he was just a bum, as Vincent was saying. I wouldn't mind just following that guy, going to the grocery store, going to the just anywhere with that guy. I would have loved to see a just spin off with that character, but yeah, that definitely stole the show for me.
That's definitely a good one. I mean, I agree with you. Samuel L. Jackson was definitely my favorite character in this film. But I mean, I didn't want to give like a clean sweep to Samuel L. Jackson, so I thought of a different one. Actually, I was going to go along the same lines as Aldrin, give a vague one. I was gonna give my award for the dialogue minus all the racial slurs. But something happened today. We're taping this on the Wednesday after on what day is it today? The 23rd of September. And there was a story that broke. I don't know if you guys follow the NFL or anything like that, but there was a story where the Chargers team doctor accidentally punctured Tyrod Taylor, who's their quarterback. He accidentally punctured his lung while he was trying to administer a pain-killing injection. Because Tyrod Taylor had some cracked ribs. And so during one of my breaks at work, when the story broke, one of the Instagram accounts that I do follow is the Barstool Sports one. And what they did, one of the posts was, it was an edit of a photo of that one scene in Pulp Fiction where Vincent needs to administer that adrenaline shot into Mia to save her life, basically. And obviously he's about to stab her in the heart with it, and the edit within the thing was they put like whatever the team doctor looked like, and then they had Tyrod Taylor as Mia Wallace. And I just thought it was pretty funny that a story that happens in 2020 it gets a little bit of a callback back into a 1994 film. And that is actually one of my favorite scenes anyway. So I had no problem giving it to just for that reason only. And then the scene was just hilarious. Just the back and forth between, I forget the drug dealer's name and Vincent, when they were kind of going back for it. It's like, Lance, yeah. Wait, you stab her. No, you stab her. It's like, well, the next time you bring in the thing, I'll be the one that's stabs the thing. I was like, it was just so good. So that was I just thought it was pretty funny that they posted that edit of the photo. And so let's get into our next award. We call it the Why is Gamora Award for favorite quote, because it was one of my favorite quotes in all of the MCU. And so Aldrin, what was your winner for the Why is Gamora Award?
I had a little bit of trouble trying to think of a good one. Jules was an easy reference, I think. And then thinking about the diner between Mia and Vincent, I liked their conversation a lot, but I think it was just one single scene where she goes to the restroom. I don't know if you remember this, but she does she powders her nose and she goes, "I said, goddamn. The way she said it was so funny. And I think that's something that just kind of sticks in my head a little bit.
Yeah, that was a good one. Just the delivery was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy, you got a winner for Why is Gamora?
Well, mine's super long compared to Aldrin's, but it's Christopher Walken. What's his name? Oh, Captain Coons.
Captain Coons, yeah.
When he was telling that story to young Butch, Yeah, and it kind of goes like this. I can't do a Christopher Walken impression. Don't make me try it. Can
Don't
you
worry,
guys do
nobody
Deadpan, bro.
can. Yeah.
Yeah, deadpan. And
I'm
it's
not
got to
gonna
be
do it.
kind of robotic too.
I can't do it. He has such weird pauses. It's hard to replicate. But he says, 5 long years he wore this watch up his ass. Then he died of dysentery. He gave me the watch. I hid this uncomfortable piece of metal up my ass for 2 years. Then, after 7 years, I was sent home to my family. And now, little man, I give the watch to you. I was cracking up after he told like this is such an extended story and so much detail, and then all of a sudden when you realize where where his father hid the watch, and then where Christopher Walken hid the watch, it's like, dang, that's gross, and then he just hands it to him.
Yeah, it's basically an extended monologue, and then it was like so poignant for a while. And then like he gets into where the watch has been over the last 7 years prior. And dude, I was cracking up too. That was so classic.
Yeah.
And he's saying all this to a boy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So inappropriate.
And it's funny how much he cherishes it later on.
I know. Definitely risks his life for it. And he almost did.
But still not as much as his dad, and not as much as they cared for it. He put it on, what was it?
A camel, right?
On a
Was it
camel or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, my winner is actually kind of long also. Well, and I mean, Jeremy knows this. Some of my podcast listeners know this. I'm a foodie, and early on, when they're talking about the quarter pounder with cheese, I had to basically wanted to mention the whole thing. I even wrote down everything. Vincent goes, "You know what they call it? A quarter pounder with cheese in Paris?" Jules will just says, "They don't call it a quarter pounder with cheese." Vincent goes, "No, man, I got the metric system. They wouldn't know what the fuck a quarter pounder is." Jules is, "Now what do they call it?" Vincent goes, They call it a royale with cheese." Just the way he says it. They call it a royale with cheese. Jules goes, "A royale with cheese. Well, what do they call a Big Mac?" Well, and Vincent goes, "Well, a Big Mac's a Big Mac, but they call it Lay Big Mac." I was dying when he said that. Oh no, he did say Lay Big Mac. Jules, I don't know if he believes it or not. He goes, "Lay Big Mac," and he starts laughing. And it's like, "Well, what do they call a Whopper?" And then Vincent, deadpan, like serious, "I don't know. I didn't go into Burger King."
I didn't get Burger
like, man, shots fired. It's so good. Oh man, I remember watching that the first time. I was like, dude, I was hooked right after. Just like their interaction. I could have just cited like all of the interactions between Vincent and Jules, like all of their dialogue, especially like the foot massage part. Oh, dude, it was so good. Even though it kind of conveys a little bit of homophobia, I
It's the
just
same
thought it was funny,
ballpark, right?
It's but same ballpark. Oh man. So you know what? Let's go into our next award. And you know, Pulp Fiction has so many cameos. And so the next award that we're going to go into is the Stan Lee Award for Best Cameo. It's Aldrin. Who was your winner for the Stan Lee Award?
This was an easy one for me. It was definitely Steve Buscemi as Buddy Holly at Jack Rabbit Slims.
No, I agree. Actually, that was my winner as well. Just because when I first saw it, I was like, oh shoot, that's Steve Buscemi. And then later on, because I completely forgot he was in it. And he was in one of the shows that I really got into, especially when I first started subscribing to HBO, Boardwalk Empire. And it's just completely night and day comparing his, just being a random waiter playing fake Buddy Holly at Jack Rabbit Slims, compared to playing Nucky Thompson in Boardwalk Empire, who was basically a gangster.
Mm-hmm.
So funny. Jeremy, who was your winner for the Stanley Award?
I guess this is kind of a extended cameo, but I would say Phil Lamar as Marvin, because he's such a great voice actor, he's played so many characters that I love, like Samurai Jack is one of them. And just to hear his voice while he's like super young and then get his head blown off by Vincent it was, I think,
On accident.
on accident was a really good cameo. I almost chose Christopher Walken because that monologue was so good, but I just wanted to like really dive to the underrated with Phil Lamar as Marvin.
Fun fact, actually, when they revisit the scene where they basically shoot up Brett, and they show his friend like in the bathroom, I honestly thought that was Jerry Seinfeld. I was like, Jerry Seinfeld's in this movie, and then I looked it up and it wasn't him. I was like, oh, that's an easy winner. I was like, oh wait, no, it's not Jerry Seinfeld. It was one of the Arquettes.
He really did look like him though.
Yeah, a really young Jerry Seinfeld, right?
Yeah.
Oh man. So you know what? Let's go on to the next award. This is the Avengers Assemble Award for favorite scene. There's so many to choose from, and so Aldrin, will give you first crack again because there are so many of them. So who's your winner?
This one was an easy one for me too. There's a lot of great scenes in this movie, but the Jackrabbit scene where they dance, that one's always stuck in my mind. Even though it's not like a really fancy dance, but it's just so iconic in my mind.
Yeah.
That I feel like it'll just hold over time, I think.
It's definitely a timeless scene for sure. Definitely timeless. And you could put it over like whatever music you want. You know, it doesn't have to be like the actual music that was playing in that scene, that particular scene, but man, they could play it like, you know, the theme song that they ended up using. I forget the name of it, but you know, the one where it starts off with the movie, you could play that in the background and it would go. So Jeremy, who was your winner?
For me, it was the Jules and Vincent in the apartment building with Brett. That scene, like the whole like burger and was it Sprite?
Yeah, it was Sprite.
Yeah, it was Sprite. Yeah, that
Big Kahuna
scene,
Burger.
Yeah, Big Kahuna Burger. Like I feel like that scene and the diner scene with the dance has been parodied so many times that it's like this whole movie I feel like is parodied so many times. But for me, that apartment building scene interrogating Brett was so good, especially when Jules did the Ezekiel verse for the first time.
You know, fun fact, that's not even the Ezekiel verse. He hella adds to it. I think they draw inspiration from something completely different. I remember watching a YouTube video on it, but it's not Ezekiel 25:17. At least not all of it.
Also, a fun fact about that verse, it is like when Nick Fury dies or supposedly dies in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. That's what's on his tombstone.
Shoot, I didn't even realize that. Something to look forward to.
That's a great reference, though.
That is a good reference.
Yeah.
You know, I'm definitely going to look out for that when we get to that in our MCU rewatch. Definitely going to look out for that. Well, my winner is, oh man, I had a tough time. It was between two of the scenes that have already been mentioned were two of the ones that I was really thinking about. I was like, okay, well, I figured these two scenes will probably get picked. So I ended up picking that scene where Vincent accidentally blows off Marvin's head. I just thought, I was like, why? Wait,
sure.
I was like, well, I must be some sort of psychopath to laugh at someone getting their head blown off. I'm like, why am I laughing? It just the hijinks that happens after that. I mean, Harvey Keitel was brilliant after that as the cleaner, and that whole thing. And obviously, we see Quentin Tarantino as Jimmy as well, and his linens. You know, his linens, man, they're high quality.
The gourmet coffee too.
Yeah, the gourmet coffee, exactly. I wonder what kind of coffee they were drinking. Was Starbucks around in '94?
Could have been, yeah.
I wonder if it was the Starbucks thing.
They threw Taster's Choice down the drain, that's for sure.
Yeah, I know. They definitely threw that under the bus.
What did you think about Tarantino being in the film, Jeremy?
I actually thought that, like, because obviously he gives himself cameos in multiple of his movies, but he had such a like bigger role than I expected in this one. I'm like, he's in it a lot,
right?
And you know, he says the N-word a few times, and that surprised me. And so But yeah, I actually didn't mind him. He was pretty funny.
Yeah, he probably got the okay from Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, obviously Samuel L. Jackson's always like at least a cameo in a lot of Tarantino films, which I think is always funny. Like one of those. Okay, it's kind of like a Stan Lee version, like in Tarantino's own world. I'm like, okay, where's Jules at? But yeah, it's always pretty funny to kind of see. He was I forget how young he looked in this. I was like, hey, he's babyface. All right, we are at the part of our podcast. It's actually my favorite part. It's the Guess the Rotten Tomatoes score. And, we have this running tally between me and Jeremy. Right now, we're all tied up at 6 apiece. But unfortunately, like last week, Jeremy was kind of spoiled with seeing the Rotten Tomatoes score for Tenet. And unfortunately, while I was in the midst of rewatching Pulp Fiction, the Rotten Tomatoes score just appeared directly into my Apple app, and unfortunately, I will have to disqualify myself for guessing the Rotten Tomatoes score. But luckily, we have Aldrin here to play and to kind of go heads up against Jeremy. And so, Aldrin, since you're our guest, do you want to guess what the Rotten Tomatoes score was for Pulp Fiction?
Sure. I thought a lot of people would like this film. I know it's a really popular film, cult film, mainstream sort of, but 90% I went with. 90%. I'm trying to stay a little bit under. I think it would go a little higher, but I think 90% is pretty good.
Okay. And Jeremy, what was your guess for Pulp Fiction?
Because I would have to agree with your assessment, but I feel like the critics might be a little bit harsher than the audience. So I gave it, or I'm guessing the critics, I can't speak, 88%.
Ooh, 80. Ooh, pretty close. All right. So I'm going to look up the Rotten. I actually really know what it is, but I just want to make sure, even though I know what it is, make this official. Pulp Fiction. I'm on the Rotten Tomatoes website. And yes, the Apple website is still accurate. With a tomato meter of 91.
Oh.
Pulp Fiction. Aldrin gets the point, I guess, in this regard, even though he's not really playing for
I got to catch up with you guys.
Yeah. Aldrin wins this one. But you guys were both really close in terms of the Rotten Tomato scores. So, you know what? I probably would have overshot this one for sure. Like I was already thinking in the 94 range. So I would have lost, I think. Wait.
Oh, man.
No, it would have been tied, I think. 88.
Well, Aldrin guessed 90.
Oh, yeah. He would have won, but I would have tied with you.
For second place. I noticed we keep losing to our guests. We got to get better.
I know, seriously. Yeah, Jacob was really close to Tenet. I was blown out. It wasn't even close. Damn it, Rotten Tomatoes. Jeez. Well, we are about to give our final award of the episode, and Aldrin, we call this award the I Love You 3000 award, where we rate Pulp Fiction, like our own personal rating, but we rate it on a scale of 1 to 3,000. So, Aldrin, what would you give Pulp Fiction?
I would give it a 90%.
What would that be, though? 90%.
That's roughly.
How much is 90%?
333.
Look that up for you. Do a little math on here on the fly.
That's 2,700.
Yeah, 2,700.
700.
Okay. I see you. How about you, Jeremy?
I gave it a 2610. So that's 87%. I'm trying to be a little bit more strict. I don't know. People, you shouldn't listen to my ratings. They don't count. I mean, they don't matter.
No, they do. That's why we have a podcast, Jeremy.
It's like my ratings are all over the place. I feel like I change them every week. My scaling. Yeah, my rubric is all messed up.
Oh man. Well, I actually am pretty close to Aldrin's. I guess I'm slightly above his. I gave it a 2,718 for 90.6. I really was thinking 90. I was like, okay, I'm start giving decimals because I didn't want to I don't know, duplicate any other one. So 2718, that was on purpose, because I would have I would have rated it the same as Aldrin. Oh man. So next week, well, since it's almost October 3rd, we're watching a move that is so fetched. We will be busting out the burn book while we talk about the 2004 film Mean Girls, starring Lindsay Lohan and Rachel McAdams. And so, like our movie franchise series that we have going with the MCU, me and Jeremy have been kind of playing around with the idea of a guilty pleasure, kind of a mini series. And so, kind of be on the lookout for these random curveballs that we do throw, a little, where we switch gears. So next week, we will be talking about Mean Girls. Jeremy, are you excited to talk about Mean Girls next week?
I haven't seen the movie since high school, I think. So I'm excited to rewatch it and catch more of the jokes this time. I don't know how I feel about the movie pretty much 10 years later.
Well, we get to rewatch it again. Aldrin, have you seen Mean Girls before?
I have. I've seen it maybe a couple times, maybe 3-4 times at the most. It's been a while since I've seen it recently, but I do remember enjoying that movie. It was a pretty good one, I think.
Yeah, I agree too. I was like, I remember watching it. I was like, man, this is actually really funny. I don't know why. And so I don't know if this qualifies as a guilty pleasure, because I do mention it if the topic comes up. I'm like, oh, yep, Mean Girls is definitely one of them. And so I'm definitely looking forward to it next week. But before we do that, Aldrin, I know you're not on social media. Do you have anything to plug? Like anything that you may be working on or anything?
Not really. If you see me around, just say hi.
Yeah, if you're hanging out in the Bay Area.
They don't know what you look like. If you hear his voice, guys.
Yeah, you just start asking random people. It's like, hi, is your name Aldrin? And then it's got to have that nice baritone voice, right? Well, I mean, if you do want to try to contact Aldrin, you could always email us, and we'll just forward him the message on your behalf. And Jeremy, you still don't remember what that email address is, right?
Yeah, it's at Hotmail somewhere.
Yeah. Something like that. Again, it's weeklyrealpod@gmail.com. Jeremy, do you have anything to plug for this week?
Yeah, if you want to follow me or subscribe to my YouTube channel, just look it up. It'll be in the link down below, hopefully. Jeremy Pulambarit, trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. Come on, guys. Let's do this.
Yeah, only a few more hundred, actually. He's actually pretty close. Well, for me, you could find me on Twitter and Instagram at FreeKenA. That's at free_Ken_A. All of the information that we've just mentioned will be in the episode notes. And so, Jeremy, is there anything else that I'm forgetting? Anything else that you want to add also?
So what color are we going to wear next week? What's Wednesday again? Is it pink?
Yeah, definitely going to wear pink, right?
Is that what it was? I forgot.
I forget.
When we watch the movie again, we'll figure it out. Wednesday, or is it Wednesdays don't wear pink? I forgot.
Yeah, that reference went over my head. It's been so long since I've seen the movie.
Oh, you didn't know what I was talking about?
Honestly, I didn't know what you were talking about.
The coordinated colors in the movie, right? But I don't remember that at all, too.
Yeah, I'm doing the shrug right now. I know you guys can't see it, but I'm definitely doing the shrug. Well, I had fun talking Pulp Fiction with all of my cousins, or two of them anyway. Aldrin, we definitely want to thank you for joining us this week. You know what? You're always welcome on the podcast. And so, yeah, we'll just try to just let us know and we'll make the schedules work. And so definitely thank you for joining us. Again, next week, we'll be talking about Mean Girls. And then we have a brand new guest lined up for next week, Jeremy. So we'll leave everyone like kind of on a cliffhanger, get to see who that is next week. And so
it's Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah, I wish. Or even better, Rachel McAdams. Ooh. Oh man. Well, anyway, stay tuned for that next week. I want to thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week on The Real.